So we're going to look at this room, and a lot of people say that this poem's a hard one to get, but it's not really, because it's so vague. You can basically say anything of it, and no one can really say you're wrong, because it's quite unclear. Apart from that someone's happy in this poem, we don't know what's going on. So looking at the structure, it's irregular, it's free verse obviously, so we have no idea what's coming. It just kind of builds, it's kind of got a life on its own, kind of like when joy comes to us, it just kind of overtakes, so that's supposed to reflect that. The use of the colon here is introducing the largest section, and the writer just used it there as kind of like it's right almost in the middle of the poem, so it's kind of like there's one point where something's stable, and then the rest of it's just all around again. And this might actually reflect all the happiness and joy just kind of flowing around her, but there is one kind of pinpoint in her life, or one moment in her life, that this is all linchpinned around. You've got the enjambment, which really helps us focus on the words at the end. So I've left my feet in Y. At the end here, the Y is really kind of just left to hang, almost like to show her shock and surprise, etc. And she's so shocked and surprised actually that the small thing there is like my hands. It's very soft. There's no capital on the M at the bottom there to represent that. And you've got the room discussed in person. So at the beginning here, you've got all this. The room is actually discussed, and it's not till down here where it finally turns to her. So you've got that switch as well in the poem, which kind of shows she's watching everything, and then we know it's her feelings. Okay, so the meanings, obviously joy and excitement. Obviously we've got the idea that there's lots of light and empty air, and we've got the idea of this excitement again, and there's lots of wonderings. This person's quite confused, but in a good way, and also it's a time to be alive, so obviously she's happy about something. Obviously there's a lot of expectations as well, because we've got that the room's cracking out of itself, so obviously we've broken an old thing, we're about to move into a new thing, but we don't know what it is. You've got the idea of, well, of the breaking out, so something obviously here is breaking out, something's going to be free, something's going to grow. Perhaps also this could be a change from oppression, you know, there's a person maybe trapped in a room in some way, maybe it's a cultural difference, or a culture where they're being kept and they're going to move somewhere else, perhaps. Obviously that's just, there's no evidence for that really, but obviously we've got this whole idea of change coming through. You've got the idea, the image of the room, and obviously how it's changing throughout, and obviously then that could reflect a change in the person as well. You've got the simple celebration with the pots and pans, so maybe we're actually in a very simple place here, being banged together, etc. And that's just going to tie into this one there as well. It's kind of like magical here. Maybe the pots and pans are doing it themselves, a la Fantasia, and then you've got all this stuff flying around, rather Harry Potterish, but that all kind of shows that this is a magical moment, something that's really, really happy. The whole room is alive with something. And also the image of her being alone in her joy. I mean, she kind of comes outside of herself, but no one is looking for the door. Maybe no one really is there. It's not actually mentioning anyone else there. It's just her, and just seeming to be really happy with what's going on. So we move on then to language, and obviously we've got the list of 3 here, the garlics, onion, spices, which gives us a real rhythm going through. You've got the onomatopoeia in cracking, so you've got the idea there where it's really come to life, something's broken, and it's just really coming to life in the second line there. And the language is also very vague the whole way through, so something's going on, but we're not sure exactly what, which is great because it allows us so much to actually interpret, and just try and catch a feel rather than catch a meaning in this one. So it's actually the feeling that really comes through more than anything. Well, what does it actually make us think about then? What's the effect on us? Maybe it gives the idea of hope, maybe people always have something to look forward to. The idea of joy, obviously something to feel like everything's alive around you, even though it might not be, but that's how you feel because you feel lighter than you used to be because you're so happy with something. And also going to think about just in terms of writing, the expression for expression's sake. This person just getting this out, want to get it off their chest, want to talk about it, want to share it, even though it might not be the most relevant or sounding thing, the most logical thing. It's just this moment she's trying to capture. She feels that happy then. Okay, so we move on to the next poem, and we'll have the hurricane hits England, which is a poem that quite a few people like. Okay, so structure is free verse, watching the hurricane, so kind of just get to comment on it as it actually goes along. So just seeing how it's actually all coming into being, or all the actual things that are actually happening around her. Loads of questions all the way coming through, so it's kind of a lot of internal reflection, introspection, kind of talking to the hurricane at the beginning here, but actually thinking of oneself, and obviously talking about what it all means. What does it all mean? What does it all mean? You've also got the idea of the different modes of address. So first, at the beginning, it's actually speaking to the person's actually speaking to the hurricane or the weather, as it were, and this whole thing, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. She's thinking about the she's thinking about the all the native things that remind her of home, and she feels as if she's come to there. But whereas here at the end, I am aligning myself to you, I am following it's very direct. Now she's actually speaking to it, so maybe she's got some answers, or maybe she wants to connect with it somehow, connect with her past, connect with her heritage, connect with home. Who knows? Then you've got the links to home, obviously, with the names of the gods or the omens that are actually mentioned here. You've got the cultural reminders, etc. This dark ancestral spectre, that actually comes, and maybe the howling ship of the wind, the same thing she may have heard when she was actually back home. And you've got the power of nature, so we've got it here, the meaning of trees that are falling heavy, etc., etc., etc. So obviously the hurricane is very, very powerful in this. You've got the images of the devastation, so you've got this blinding illumination, obviously of the thunder, and you've got the trees being destroyed there, and obviously this is all bringing about a change in her, and maybe a girl that she'd forgotten of home. Maybe this is one of the images, it's things that she just hadn't remembered, and obviously that comes from to bring her closer, maybe to bring her closer to memory, to bring her closer to mind, her obviously being home in this case. And maybe it's a reminder of a past that's haunting her, something actually coming back to her, and this is the idea of the dark ancestral spectre, something that she should actually be reminded of more often, and maybe it's something that was buried quite deep inside of her, or maybe a memory, or maybe a cultural or quasi-religious experience. So the language then, repetition here, I am. Again, this is building the growth and the idea of the storm. That is something, and paralleling the growth of the storm, that's actually growing inside of her as well. You've got the simile across here, falling heavy as whales, so that gives us a really strong image of something striking the ground with enormous, tremendous power and weight. And also you've got the juxtaposed ideas of here, something is like some dark ancestral spectre, fearful and reassuring. So it's obviously something that she actually is wary of, but then something she's calmed by, so she actually feels very mixed feelings there, but it's quite interesting because it shows she's not quite sure how to take it. So what does this actually remind us of? Well, it reminds us of home, what people remember from other countries, how they actually feel about home, and things that actually remind them. It could be the smell of a certain place, or it could be a certain kind of food, or in this case a hurricane, and also of other customs, basically here obviously talking to the spirits of nature, or the gods of maybe certain parts of nature, and maybe that's obviously something done in the Caribbean, and obviously every culture has their own different things like that as well. And obviously of these feelings erupting, which we've got down here, oh, why is my heart unchained? Maybe she really feels alive for that time. And also the lines to a little further on, where you talk about come and break the frozen lake in me, this frozen lake basically being the pit of emotions that she always has, feeling about home, etc., etc., before it actually bakes. And again, that's with this shaking the foundation of the very trees within me, again that actually ties into the ideas of the feelings erupting. So yeah, hopefully that'll be of some use.